Okay, now we're going to show you how these things are actually made. We're molding up the face side of the casting right now with some virgin sand, the white sand right up against the face of the casting. That is backed up by reclaimed or reused recycled sand, and that's all packed down to get the impression of the pattern below. We're now doing the cope side, which is the underside, the rib structure, again with the white virgin sand right up against the face of the casting for really good facial quality, and backed up with the reclaimed sand. And again, all this gets recycled and broken back down to make new molds going forward. Here we're looking at the completed mold for the drag, the face side. There are two sides to this. And this is called a dump box. The sand is bound chemically as opposed to being bound with the clay and cornstarch method. So it sets up a little harder, and it allows you to use this system, which is they call a dump box, and you're going to literally dump the sand right out of this box. But it sets up very hard. It's very good for very complex and intricate castings. As you can see, the negative impression of the pattern is what is left in the sand mold, and then that will be filled with your molten metal. We have graphite, which is sprayed onto the surface of the mold and then burned off, and that just gives a very good, again, a really good facial quality. It's not necessarily mandatory, but it is nice when you're using aluminum and bronze and some of these more expensive alloys, just to get a really, really good finish on the surface of the casting. On the left-hand side, right up here in this frame, you can see they are molding up the other side of that. They've taken that out of the dump box, and that is also burned with the graphite, kind of a pretty picture there. And these two sides of the mold are then married up with one another. Right now he's squirting on a liquid gasket material, which just prevents the liquid metal from bleeding out, which can scrap your casting if that's what if that happens. They put the two sides of the mold, cope and drag, together and register them, and they are perfectly aligned, and that is your completed mold. This is a 24-inch square casting that we're making. It's about 1 inch thick. In order to do that, we have to mold a 36-inch square mold that is 6 over 6, so it's 6 inches tall on either side, plus 6 inches all the way around the casting to get a mold size that is adequate. Here we have our bronze material. This is actually old returns from previous grates. This is ingot. We'll use a combination of the two, sometimes all of one, sometimes all of the other. But that is melted down, and it's like making soup. Here he's getting you've got your molten metal, and you're skimming off all of the impurities to the pure alloy right there, which is what you can see. And that's what's going to be poured into these molds. It is then transferred into a ladle, which is your portable device for filling the molds. And this is then brought over to the molds. Bronze, which is what this is poured at 22 to 2300 degrees Fahrenheit. Aluminum is typically 14 to 1600, and bronze or iron is 24 to 2550 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is all very hot material. He's pouring this off into the mold. Once it glows red like you see here, we know that it's full, and you can go on to the next one. And you keep doing that until the ladle is empty or near empty. If you get to a point where it's near empty and you can't have enough for another complete mold, they just pour it off into ingots that can be used for future castings. Once the castings have cooled, they are ready to be shaken out of their molds. And basically these are being taken into a big vibrating bin that breaks up the sand mold and allows the casting to be pulled out of that sand mold. It's kind of a brutal process, but this is the same thing that goes on with every either machine or man with every casting out there. And they break up that sand. That sand is then broken down and vibrated until it's back into its granular form, at which point it can be reused to make new molds. And they have the net casting out here, or the gross casting, if you will. It has all the gating and the runner bars and everything that was used to feed the casting. It's a whole casting, as it were. All this stuff has to be cut off. If you've ever built a model airplane when you were a kid, or a model car, you had to peel little parts off of a plastic kind of tree, for lack of a better word. This is the same exact process. It's just heavier and bigger. But you can see, you'll be able to see in a moment that you have to go through the same process. This is a shot of the full castings with all of their gating and runner bars still attached. And all that has to be cut off to get you to your net dimensional piece. They're using a bandsaw here. Sometimes you can use a water jet to cut off gating, but whatever is the best, whatever equipment you have on hand to do this, the best is what you use. Once the castings have been cut to dimension, they're then put into a blast machine where all the oxides are blasted off, and you get your finished product with all the oxides blasted off and a very beautiful, pure alloy silicon bronze casting that is your finished product and ready to ship.